to start and turn it on. I'm Kelly Merritt, editorial page editor of the Daily Mail, which is the right side of the paper in the print, or on the computer.
I'm Dawn Miller, I'm the Gazette opinion page editor.
I'm Rob Byers, I'm the executive editor.
I'm Laura Hay, I'm a reporter.
And there's Kenny.
Good to see you.
About a minute and a half.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for having us here today. I have a record, and it's a record that's based on 15 years of excellent service on the county commission, and I'm very comfortable in running on the commission's record. Let me tell you some of the challenges that we've had in the last 6 years. First of all, it's no secret that we've had difficult economic times in the last few years, and we've had to really be challenged to keep the county's finances properly managed and controlled, and we've done a very good job with that. In fact, we have tripled our rainy day fund since 2012. So I would view that it's not a glamorous responsibility of the commission, but it's probably the most important one, and that's guarding the purse strings of the county. And we're very pleased with the financial status of our county. Our audit reports are excellent, and the status of our finances is excellent. With respect to relationships, county commission is based in many cases on relationships. Our commission, and myself included, we have very good relationships among ourselves, among the three commissioners. There was a time when the county commission was cantankerous and difficult, and there was a lot of problems and things weren't getting done. And in the current commission, we have not had that. We work together as a team, and we get along and respect each other. We have good relationships with our judges and our court, and that can be challenging at times because you have a whole separate branch of county government. We have good relations with our other office holders, whether they're Republican or Democrat. I've been able to successfully work with our other elected officials. And that can also be problematic if you lose track of who you work for, because we all ultimately work for the public. We interact with 14 mayors and city councils. We interact with 27 volunteer fire departments, 8 public service districts, and 4 independent commissions. The Metro 911, the Ambulance Authority, our Parks and Rec Commission, our airport. These are all very important commissions that the county commission is responsible for appointing some or all of their members. And we enjoy good relationships with all of those groups and have, in my view, very good executive directors in charge of those 4 groups. As far as other challenges, I cannot tell you how much we've been challenged in the area of emergency response. We've had 3 significant countywide emergencies in the last 3 years. I'm talking about the derecho of June 30, 2012, the water crisis of January 2014, and the 1,000-year flood of June 23, 2016. We have learned how good we are in emergency response and how to get better. And remember, emergency response is by definition local. You can't wait for FEMA. You have to be prepared. And we were very prepared, and I'm very proud of the work that we did at Elk River, which I can elaborate on. With respect to law enforcement, there's no secret that drugs are at issue. Now, there's 2 components to this. One is, and I have this data here of all the arrests we've made, and all the money that we've seized, and all the work that we've done. But also remember the other component, the human component. We have established and worked very hard to have a day report center, and the day report center has 274 clients in it as we sit here today. That's a way to allow a young person, a first offense offender, to stay out of jail. We have drug court. We have 98 graduates of our drug court and 10 drug-free babies that are graduates of our drug court. We are working very hard, I mean very hard, to try to come up with alternatives to just locking up a first offense drug offender every time and having them get a felony. The opportunities are there.
Okay,
Yes.
and you're running real quickly because
I'm running because I want to continue the excellent work that we've done. And last but not least, economic issues. Everybody's got economic issues on the mind. We do too. Our partner in that is Charleston Area Alliance. I'm the commission's representative on the board of Charleston Area Alliance. We give $140,000 per year to Charleston Area Alliance. And we've had some successes in the last 3 to 4 years. The strategy was go to your strengths. Go to the chemical industry. This valley has a history of the chemical industry. Go to the automotive industry, and that started with Senator Rockefeller landing Toyota 20 years ago. We also have NGK, and go to your energy industries. And I'm prepared to discuss some of the successes that have occurred in the last 3 to 4 years in the area of economic development. I'm endorsed by the Charleston Chamber of Commerce, very proud of that endorsement. I'm endorsed by labor. I'm endorsed by the Communication Workers of America. Tomorrow morning I have a meeting with AFL-CIO, and I expect to be endorsed by the building trade unions. On the law enforcement side, I'm endorsed by the Fraternal Order of Police, and I am endorsed by the West Virginia Sheriff's Association. So I've tried to be fair, I've tried to be nonpartisan, and I think it shows in those endorsements. I'm a lawyer. I've had 32 years of law practice experience. I'm a college professor. I've taught college for 16 years. I'm a CPA, and I have been since 1985. And I'm proud to stand before you on the record of the commission. And I would love to have your endorsement from both newspapers this time.
Well,
Thank you. Well, first off, thank you all for having this. I think it's very important that we have these interviews because, as I was mentioning before, it's very difficult going around all of Kanawha County, door knocking, phone banking, and talking to all the voters. And so this is a great way for them to have the access to listen to both sides at the same time and get the facts. My name is Lance Wheeler. I graduated from St. Albans High School. I've been a native Kanawha Countian my whole life. Went to St. Albans High School, and I tell voters, I knew I was going to be in politics very early when I won my first election ever as prom king at St. Albans High School in 2008. And I knew it was downhill from that point. But, you know, the reason I decided to get into this election was about a year ago in November. At that time, there was a project to annex 60 and Old Route 35. Everyone in St. Albans that I talked to was against this annex. They did not want to annex this area because the businesses were against it, the neighborhoods were against it, the West Side Volunteer Fire Department was against it because they collect a good number of revenue on accidents they hit on that road. That is my volunteer fire department. If my house or my neighbor's home was to go up in flames, that fire department is the one that called me, and their budget was at risk of being cut. And Dave Hardy applauded that measure. Now, after all this went through and the voters said that it was a bad idea, Dave Hardy came back in December and said, Dick Calloway, Mayor of St. Albans, it was a terrible idea. We should have never gone this way in the first place. And this was just another idea of someone flip-flopping from one issue to the next because of the worry that they were going to lose their job in politics. And I knew right then that it was time that we had someone running for Kanawha County Commission who offered a voice for all of Kanawha County citizens. I've been door knocking in the 36. I've been in Marmet, Bell. I've been talking to voters. And one question that's echoed is, where did all our coal severance tax go? For years, that coal severance tax came out of that eastern Kanawha County, and their infrastructure is crumbling, their municipalities are drying up, they're concerned that they're not going to have the funds, and they never felt like they saw a dime of it. This is the issue that we have a Kanawha County Commission that is what I call do-nothing commission. They are not listening to the voices of the people. They're not talking with them. Anytime that they have an issue, the voters explain that they are sent to a secretary and their call is never returned. And that is one of the big reasons I decided to run in this. I'm a 26-year-old man. I have a lot of things going on in my life. And I'm taking the responsibility of running for this so I can help the people of Kanawha County. And Dave Hardy mentioned jobs. I love to talk about jobs. Where are they? I tell voters, if you're looking to sell your home and you don't have a for sale sign or have a realtor or put it online, no one's going to come buy your home. I think it's time that we have a county commissioner who's selling the idea of bringing good paying jobs here in the Kanawha County. And that has been a viewpoint that the voters are astounded to hear. Someone who's going to take on that responsibility. I'll give you one example on that. Beretta was moving their manufacturing from Maryland. Did one of our officials send them a letter, call them, encourage them? We just passed constitutional carry. It feels like this would be a place that a gun manufacturing company bringing 400 good-paying jobs would want to come to. You know who got that business? Beretta moved to Texas because the governor, Rick Perry, asked them to. That is what it takes. We need to have someone selling the idea that Kanawha County is going to be the place to bring your good-paying jobs, someone who's going to listen to the people and represent all of Kanawha County, not just your buddies in Charleston. And that is why I'm running, and that is why I hope to have the endorsement from the Gazette and the Daily Mail.
Thank you. Since he did make some specific charges, I'll let you respond to his brief, please, and now that we're going to get to our
Let's
questions.
talk about the issue of jobs. As I said, Charleston Airlines is our job partner that we use, and I'm glad to use them. They're full-time professionals in the recruitment of prospective employers to this valley, and they work very closely with Keith Burdett, the Commerce Department. In the last 4 years, we've had an expansion of NGK in Sissonville, material expansion, and I might add, we defeated Downey, California for that opportunity. It was between Sissonville, West Virginia, and Downey, California, and we won. We've had an expansion of Caskey up here on Kanawha Boulevard, and that was done in partnership with the commission because we, through Charleston Airlines, actually own the property. Most people don't know that. The Charleston Airlines Foundation owns the property that Caskey sits on, and they came to us, they renewed their lease and grew their workforce. Correa Hall in Bell is a material investment that was a direct result of the initiative of recruiting chemical industry back to this valley. Optima in Bell is another new employer that's a material improvement and another new chemical concern. The commission partnered with Governor Manchin, then Governor Manchin, to reopen the stamping plant in South Charleston. We were directly involved and met with the officials that reopened the plant and worked arm in arm with Governor Manchin to see that that's reopened, and it's been a marvelous success. With respect to the tech park, we worked very hard with Senator Manchin and then Governor Manchin at the time to take ownership of the tech park through the West Virginia Regional Tech Park organization, and they do nothing but recruit chemical jobs, chemical related jobs to the Matrix facility that's located in the tech park. And I could probably go on, and I could, about some other assets that we've worked on that are smaller. And I won't, because I'd be glad to provide a list. I know our time is limited. They include a $10 million renovation to Building 77 at the Tech Park, JPM Precision, 23 new businesses at the Charleston Area Alliance Incubator, and I shouldn't leave this one out because it just happened, U.S. Methanol at Institute, the new facility that will be moved here. They are so impressed with the Kanawha Valley. They are moving 2 facilities here. They are actually picking up facilities that are overseas, disassembling those facilities and moving them to this valley. One will be at Institute. It will have 60 permanent jobs, 300 construction jobs, and they will pay between $55,000 and $75,000. The other one will be very similar, and it will be moving to the Bell area. I might also add that our commission fought very aggressively to keep the guard base intact at Yeager Airport. Don't undervalue the payroll of that guard base. It is a tremendous asset. And how do we do that? We stepped up to the plate in partnership with the governor, got the funding to build a bridge into Coonskin Park, and allowed the guard base to secure its location, its entrance, and that was the last thing that we needed to mark off the BRAC list, because that was considered a material deficiency for the base with BRAC, Base Realignment and Closure Commission. So I gave the highlights, but believe you me, economic development efforts go on here every single day. And it's simplistic to think that you can just pick up a telephone and have somebody move a factory here. It takes months, years of effort to get that type of investment. And and we've had them. So that is an inaccurate statement. With respect to coal severance dollars, I was born and bred in Pratt, West Virginia. I was the alum of the year at East Bank High School this year, last Saturday night. 90% plus of our coal severance dollars are spent in the Upper Kanawha Valley, including the assisting the water company in laying a brand new water main line under the Kanawha River at Hansford that now assures that they have a stable water supply and has the same water in the Upper Kanawha Valley that we have right here in Charleston and St. Albans and other areas. So Riverside High School, playground after playground, water systems, sewer systems, we constantly spend money in the Upper Kanawha Valley. So it is a complete falsehood to say that we don't spend our coal severance dollars in the coal producing area. Matter of fact, under state law, we were required to spend 3/4 of them there. But we go a step further, we spend about 90%.
I'll start with the question. You've been on the commission since 2002, correct? January
4, 2001.
And it's a 6-year term?
Yes, sir.
Right. Did you fill an expired term? Or an
Yes,
unexpired
I
term?
was appointed when Duke Bloom was elected judge. I was appointed to a 2-year term. So I ran for the first time in 2002 for the remainder of the term, which was to 2004.
Been on there since 2001. 15 years, and you're the new guy on the commission, aren't you? And so,
I prefer to think of it as the junior. Okay.
well, that just raises the question. Regardless of how good of a good job you might be doing, it's a 3-member commission.
Right.
You think we want some kind of turnover to get some new blood, some new thinking into a body like this. Isn't it time for some new thinking, a new commissioner?
I think we always have new thinking. I know that I think about things differently today than I did even 3 or 4 years ago because we keep getting new challenges. And the technology keeps changing, the economic conditions, all the conditions of our county constantly change, not to mention these natural disasters that we've had. I have worked very well with Commissioner Carter and Commissioner George. So I don't have any desire to say anything about needing to somehow turn over because I think we've done a very good job. And I think our record would indicate that. Of course, it's designed every 2 years, one of the commissioners is up for re-election. But I would say, looking at our record, it's not a surprise that the public has viewed our tenure there favorably because we've all been re-elected by very large margins.
What the voters have all told me is that they're excited to see that they have a choice in this election. The last elections we've had for county commissioners have not always had the best candidates running down. They did not door knock, they didn't phone bank. They were really kind of a fill-in of the ballot, and that was wonderful at the time. But Republicans today, as we have noticed since 2014, have really been taking a good favorable to the voters, and I think that they're finally really excited, the voters are, that they're going to be able to get a choice when they go to the ballot box and know that they can pick between 2 good candidates, including myself. And I think that that's what we really need to picture on, is making sure that we're electing someone who's going to be a good candidate, who has some new ideas, some fresh ideas, and I think it's time that we do that. And I think Dave Hardy may have found that time, that this is the time we need someone new.
If you're not successful this time, do you think you run again in 2 years against King Carter?
I think that I am running today to be county commissioner.
Do you have any thoughts about, is there any potential to share services with other counties or to consolidate services to save money? Do you see any potential like that out there?
Dawn, I think the answer to that is intergovernmental agreements, and we have gone down that path. I'll give you a good example. Shawnee Park. We entered into an intergovernmental agreement. The town of Dunbar was in a really tough situation with the Wine Cellar Park and the fact that they were going to spend a fortune trying to do renovations on the swimming pool and things of that nature. So we did an intergovernmental agreement with the town of Dunbar, where the town of Dunbar runs Shawnee Park for our Parks and Rec Commission. That's a good example of I hate to use the term outside the box, but I will, outside the box thinking in that no one was territorial about the park. The park's not in the city of Dunbar, but the city of Dunbar was willing to use its resources if we would give them the ability to use the park. I like intergovernmental agreements. State code allows for them, and that's one of many other ideas. Things that I've been working on are recycling, because we have a complete and total meltdown of our recycling program. We've been trying to explore whether we can get enough volume to justify recycling running in the black. And I think intergovernmental agreements is the way to go. And we're constantly looking for ways to do it. We have, on the law enforcement side, we've done very well. What we call the HEAT Task Force, which is heroin eradication, we have multi-jurisdictions in that. On our Metro Drug Unit, we have multi-jurisdictions. And of course, Metro 911 is the best example of what happens when everybody lays aside all the city limits and all works together. When I first went on the commission, we had a number of areas in our county that still did their own emergency dispatch. And that just all came under Metro 911 in the last 3 or 4 years. So to answer your question, I'm always looking for ways to consolidate, get better, and streamline realities of the situation. You have to deal with territory issues at times. Some of the cities are much more inclined than others. One other example I want to give you, we did create a Upper Kanawha Valley, with coal severance funds, an Upper Kanawha Valley police unit that through the sheriff's department that operates out of Shillian, and it fills in and provides law enforcement for all of the 9 municipalities on either side of the river east of the Yeager Bridge. So we have, to a sense, created a Metro East Metro East law enforcement unit through the sheriff's department. We had to have the mayors buy into it, they did, and we had the right sheriff, and that was Sheriff Mike Rutherford.
Any potential there, do you see?
Well, to answer what he was just saying, I think it's interesting that we can say that coal severance money went into an area, but was it used effectively? Was it used efficiently? And I think the voters would disagree with that argument. But when it comes to the 911 system, the Metro 911 has been a disaster for a lot of people in Kanawha County. A lot of people in Kanawha County, their addresses are all messed up. Google Maps cannot find an address for a house. You have to actually go in there and place your own home. My home, for instance, cannot be found. My grandfather, who was living with me, I had to call the ambulance. The ambulance was circling around the block with a searchlight because they could not find the address that the new 911 system put under. And I know people from Sissonville, Cross Lanes, Marmette, who have all told me that they have 3 legal addresses and that the post office has given up on trying to get their mail to their home. And I think that's a serious issue that we've just swept under the rug. We have ambulances that cannot find homes. And in a crisis, when a heart attack or a stroke occurs, we're talking seconds, minutes before an ambulance can get there.
What is the solution to that problem?
I think we need to look at what we've done and go back and redo it. We can't just say that, well, it failed, so now it's just what we're stuck with. We've got to go back and fix the issue. And the county commission has decided that they will not want to fix the issue. And maybe one thing that we can do is go back to the old addresses, because those old addresses were located on Google Maps. You can type in the old address of my home, and it will be found. It's the new address that cannot be found now. It actually takes me all the way down to Kroger's, which is a good 10 miles from my house. And if we're talking about our ambulance authority, which is struggling out in these rural areas to find these homes, there needs to be a new system that's implemented. We can't just keep sweeping under the rug. But when it comes to 911, a year ago, Dave Hardy approved with his vote to increase the 911 fees $1 for homes and almost $2 for businesses. And I have friends of mine, supporters of mine who are paramedics here in Kanawha County, and they're asking themselves, where did that money go? Because they feel like when it comes to our county services, they have been ignored in all the county departments. And we have to ask, where did that money go? It was said that it was needed. We had to have this money. We had to increase fees. We had to increase taxes on these Kanawha County citizens. But yet we're still struggling. And I think our paramedics, they suffer the same issues that our cops do when it comes to this drug epidemic here in Kanawha County. They're on the front lines, but just like we saw in Huntington. And we need to make sure that they're properly funded. And if we're increasing taxes, because that's going to help these services, then we have to ask, where did this money go? Because these paramedics are not seeing it.
Okay, let me ask you also, just while we're on the subject, you suggested that coal severance money spent in Upper Kanawha Valley on law enforcement is not a good use of that money. Where would you rather spend it?
No, I'm not saying it's not a good use of money. What I'm arguing is, where did that money go from that point? It's easy to say that we threw money into a program or we gave money to an organization, but I'd like to know the transparency of where did that money particularly go and how was it spent? Was it spent effectively? Was it spent efficiently for that area? Or is there some instances, which I agree, I believe there are, some instances where some of these entities have been padding their pockets with this money, and I think that we need to have someone who's looking into this issue and making sure that that's not occurring in Kanawha County, because the amount of transparency is, it's really hard for our voters to have trust in our county commission, because they don't know where their tax dollars are going. They feel like they're ignored until their property taxes are due, and they're knocking on their doors and they're asking for their money. So my reasoning is, we need to make sure that when this money is spent in these areas where it should be spent, are we making sure that it's being spent efficiently?
Are coal severance taxes included in what auditors examine?
Of course.
Commissioner?
Of course. And if you look at our sheriff's department budget, again, these are public, and I'd be glad to provide it to Mr. Wheeler. It pays, the coal severance allocation in the sheriff's department pays for 4 dedicated deputies who have an office in Quincy, West Virginia, and they lease space, and I'd be glad to tell you what we pay to lease the space. And they provide 24/7 supplemental coverage to our Upper Kanawha Valley communities. Those communities don't have the tax base to support a police department anymore around the clock. And we work with the Upper Kanawha Valley mayors. They meet quarterly. We're constantly talking to the Upper Kanawha Valley mayors, and they needed, that was the one need they had more than anything, was assistance in round-the-clock law enforcement. This is all public information. As far as padding pockets, that has a negative connotation, and I would challenge anybody, including you, Mr. Wheeler, if you have any evidence of any misconduct involving any county employee, will you please provide it to this editorial board or to me personally, because to my knowledge, there is no padding pockets, and I know there isn't, and there's no fraud or misconduct either. I noticed in one of your pieces of literature that you use the word fraud in reference to county government, and I would challenge you, if you have evidence of any sort of fraud, please step forward with it, because I'll see that it's effectively dealt with. With respect to Metro 911, we have the best Metro 911 center in the state of West Virginia. And I would invite anybody to come out and take a tour of that facility. It was opened in 2005. And whether you like it or not, at times you do have to raise a fee by $1 a month to keep up with the cost of providing the services. That facility's been there 11 years. And we have state-of-the-art equipment. We have GPS. We have Google Earth. And we did have a mapping project required by the state where every house in this county, there's 66,000 structures in this county, needed a street address. And we had to work very, very hard to label every road, every lane, every spot in this county so every structure would have a street address. That the goal being that when you call 911, you give the dispatcher a street address. Mr. Wheeler, if you have any addresses that need corrected or changed, please, by all means, provide those to Metro 911, and we will send somebody out to verify or change the street address on the system. When you have 66,000 street addresses, it's very possible that there could be a mistake, because a lot of those roads and lanes had never been ever given a street address before. They were P.O. box addresses. So there was a lot of work done, and that project took about 3 years.
Is it complete?
Yes, it is complete, and that's why you see all those little green signs, and then you have to go back and constantly monitor and check up on the signs to make sure they're there.
Is there a process for reporting errors, fixing errors?
Absolutely,
things?
absolutely. When that project went online, we did have citizens call and say, My mother lives at 209 Harper Street, and she lives at 207, and somehow it was entered at 209. Somebody had made a mistake when they did the entry, and she called, and my dad was sick, and the ambulance came out, and it was 2 doors down. So we immediately talked to Metro, and they fixed the mistake. So I agree, mistakes can happen when you're entering 66,000 street addresses over a 3-year period. You could have errors, but you don't criticize the whole system because you might have a few errors on street addresses. That's the whole purpose of working and following up.
There's obviously more than just a few errors with it, and I've talked to the voters who have these multiple addresses, and they've told me that they can make these calls, and it goes around and around secretaries, and it never gets actually finished. So there is a bunch of, not just a bunch, there are a lot of voters here in Kanawha County, citizens of Kanawha County, who are having this issue. And you just named, you have this issue, I had this issue. This sample size, we're thinking how many people here in Kanawha County had this issue, and they're not getting it fixed. And that's got to be very frustrating for the voters of Kanawha County because they don't have that voice, they don't have that commissioner to go to, and that's why I'm running.
I'll say this, they answer hundreds of calls a day, literally hundreds of calls. And at the very beginning of that project, there's always going to be corrections. But that project's been up now for about 2 years, and we're very proud of it. And it has saved lives, I might add.
Of course, I worked the 2010 census, and it was a problem then in the rural area in my district that I worked in the rural areas. And a lot of people said, I've had 3 addresses, I'm not sure which one to give them. But I would have expected maybe that they were correct.
I mean, people had to name their own, literally had to name their own road.
Right.
People were asked, and there were people that didn't want a street address, said we don't want one. But we had to explain to them. We had people out in the field knocking on doors that this is because if you call an ambulance at 3 a.m., we need a street address. And I might also add, and when you're out at Metro, it'd be a great story. When you're out at Metro, that dispatcher's looking at a big screen with all sorts of maps. He can move the map down and get a street view of your house. So he's trying to get the ambulance driver there as fast as he or she can, or the law enforcement officer, either one.
You touched on the recycling program a little while ago. Can you talk a little bit more about that, elaborate on how we let it get into this mess and what we need to do to continue to get out of it?
Yes, I can. The Kanawha County Solid Waste Authority is a standalone, so it's not technically part of county government, but it is in that we care about it and we appoint 2 of the members on the board. About, let me get my dates right, about 2013, the market for recyclables just started to just go down. And a lot of it revolves around the price of gasoline and energy. And we as a commission started getting input from our board members that the Solid Waste Authority was in material trouble financially. So we decided as a commission, number one, we were going to allocate some emergency funds to help them at least stay stable, and then take over and step back and look at the whole organization. What we found was they were trying very hard to operate out of a very, very old and dangerous and dirty building. And that was the building that's out there. I'm trying to think of the name of the street. Slack Street. Let's say Smith Street, Slack Street. That building was built in 1914, and it was originally one of the earliest electrical generating plants in the Kanawha Valley. I have no idea how they came to be in that building. That goes all the way back to the 70s. But we allocated funds for them to, the building was so dangerous you couldn't even go in the building. And so we allocated funds to tear that building down. We then got, and I might add, Rodney Loftus as a community service did it for cost. And he should be credited for that. We got a tremendous price to get the building torn down. We then cleaned up the site. We had an environmental assessment done of the site. And then had it appraised. And the property there is worth about $260,000. We then went to West Virginia DEP, Secretary Randy Huffman, and we tried to get some grants to help the Solid Waste Authority. We were able to get some. We were able to get some new equipment, a new baler, and some other equipment. So they were able to at least rise from the ashes and get back up and running to a measure. Where we're having difficulty is, it is without a heavy subsidy with today's recycling rates, they are not going to be able to operate in the black. So we're either going to have to come up with a heavy dedicated revenue stream, or we're going to have to keep it at the scaled back version it is now. So that's the status of the recycling program. We keep thinking at some point that the market for recyclables will come back. Ironically, the best market is cardboard, which I would have not guessed that. I would have guessed glass or aluminum, nothing. Cardboard is by far, and shredded office paper products. We have cut that facility as far as personnel down to almost nothing. The other thing we did, and this actually worked out, we brought in the day report crew, which are clients of the day report center.
It's the sheriff's office.
Yes, and we bring work crews out there, and they like it because they get to go outside and work, and every day they work, they get a day off their sentence. And we use a lot of volunteer labor from the day report center there. We also put in strict safety rules. At times they were operating haphazardly, people not wearing hard hats, people not wearing eye protection, and you can get hurt over there. So we took care of the problem, we took care of the hemorrhage, we're not losing money anymore. Now the next step is to try to get DEP or some other agency to favor us with a grant, or we're going to have to make the decision as a county that we're going to dedicate so much money out of county revenue to the recycling program.
What's your preferred?
My preferred is if we could get the other parties, the other stakeholders to the table. My preferred is we can do it as a joint cooperative intergovernmental agreements, Don. My preferred is that we do it jointly, that we do it with the city of Charleston, and that we do it with other parties that are stakeholders. It's not an easy subject, to be honest, because the market is so bad for the recyclables that by definition you're going to lose a lot of money. It's a pure service.
I would like to say that I'm against any taxpayer dollars going to bail out any industry whatsoever. I'm pro recycling. I believe as an individual, I support anyone who wants to recycle, and I try to recycle as much as I can, but I'm a little bit outside of that network of someone coming and picking it up for me, so I can only do so much. But I don't think that we should be talking about using county taxes, county revenue to support an industry that right now is just not in the market. And if the market upticks and there's more reason to have recycling, we can have that discussion and get them in the black. But I do not believe that with the numbers, we just cut $1 million from our budget in the county, and we're talking about having even more cuts down the road. It's not looking better right now for tax revenue. So we're having this discussion that we're having a hard time getting the sheriff's office enough money. We're having a hard time getting the paramedics enough money. We're having a hard time getting everyone enough money, yet we're talking about helping an industry that's just not right now in the right climate. And if it's in the right climate, then it will make the money. But to take tax dollars from people, there's some people who do recycle, and they do a great part, but they don't want their tax dollars going to promote recycling or helping this industry. They want to keep their dollars at home. They feel like they're taxed enough already. Especially my grandmother, for instance, she has a property tax on her home, and she tells me every time that property tax comes up that she struggles to make that payment because it's such a hard payment. And here we are talking about increasing more of the taxes on individuals or using that irresponsibly. So I'm pro recycling, and I think individuals should recycle, and I do as much as I can for the environment. But I do not think that we should be using tax dollars to bail out an industry that's suffering right now. I don't agree with that.
Can I ask you, just, if we, countyans can't afford, or we don't fund a recycling program, and we don't have a recycling program, where should we take our recyclables?
Well, I think the market will figure that out. That if there is a demand for the recyclables, there's going to be a way for someone to come in and say, this is how we want to be able to recycle. the issue is the way they want to run the recycling right now, there's just not a market for it right now. There's not that demand. If that demand comes up and people are coming in saying, hey, I want to recycle all my trash to whatever, it's 10% of it or to 100% of it, however they do so, that market will be there. But to think that we can come in already struggling with the financial, we're not living in the golden era anymore. We don't have the stamping plant running at 1,000 jobs. The institute where my father was a mechanical engineer there, and now he's living in Pensacola, Florida because he lost his job. The coal is going out. We don't live in that golden era where we have this surplus and we can just throw it at anything that looks great. We've got to be very careful with our money, and if we're already looking at cuts, then there's going to be some sacrifices we're going to have to make. But I do believe that the market will always fix it, and if there's a demand for having recyclables, that will be there.
I'm sorry, I'm not clear on her answers. I mean, if Slack Street is gone, where do you take the recyclables? I think that's what she's asking. I mean, yeah, the market will be there eventually, is what you're saying, but during that time, I mean, you just throw away everything and then you have to deal with it later when it's in a landfill and the earth is dying with disease. So, do you have an alternate?
I'd like to, if we want to looking at different companies that come in and looking at the recycling, that's fine. But what my main issue is whether or not it can sustain itself. I don't believe that we should be using tax dollars to help fund an industry, any industry at that matter. This isn't about being pro-recycling or not pro-recycling. This is just about the principle of these are individuals' tax dollars and they're already struggling to pay have food on the table, and we're talking about using that money, which could be allocated to our sheriff's office to fight the drug problem, to our paramedics to help get the response time lower. We're talking about giving it to recycling. And I don't think the voters of Kanawha County would agree with that.
To clarify, we should recycle the things that there's a market for.
I think, well, you should be able to recycle however you want to recycle, but if there's not an option for you to recycle from that point, I don't think the county should step in and have the responsibility of we're going to use these dollars to create an entity to do it. I believe that if the demand is there to recycle, then an organization will come in, some business will come in and find that. Because if the market upticks and there's an increase of price for this materials, some business owners, some entrepreneurs want to come in and say, hey, if I collect this recycling, I can resell it and make a profit from that. And that's great. I support that all the way. I just don't want to see the county government using tax dollars because the market's in a bad fix right now. That's the same instance of the bank bailouts. I don't agree with that.
Is the county involved in solid waste management? Is the county involved in solid waste collection, or is that private?
That's private, yeah, or municipalities do solid waste management, but 2 or 3 points in response. Number one, it would be a tax increase if we had to, we didn't raise taxes because we went over there and saved the solid waste authority from complete and total meltdown. And we didn't raise 10 cents of taxes to do that. That was something we were able to do out of our budget. Number two, the real savings in recycling is that you save landfill tipping fees. So when you recycle something, it doesn't go to the landfill. It lengthens the life of the landfill, and it also saves you the tipping fee that you pay to put it in the landfill. So there's different ways you can measure the economic cost of recycling. With respect to the point that we're raising taxes, the levy rate has remained unchanged since 2012. Our levy rate has been 14.3. In 2012, it was 14.3. In 2013, we lowered the levy rate, 14.13. And since 2014, it has remained at 14.3. I don't know what data Mr. Wheeler's listening to, but our collections in September were very good. That's when our big cash surge comes in. It's when everybody pays their property taxes to get the discount. That's when our revenue stream is very uneven because everybody pays in August to get the discount by September 1. We were very pleased with our revenue numbers that came in the month of September. Our budget is not in any way, shape, or form in crisis, and we don't anticipate making a bunch of material cuts. The reason we're not doing it is because we saw the economic downturn coming. We saw it coming a couple of years ago, and we started pulling back. Give you an example. We had 60 employees in the county under the umbrella of the county commission. We now have 56. So we went ahead and started not filling positions. Our sheriff is very pleased with his budget. The fact that I'm endorsed by the FOP and the Sheriff's Association, which means the rank and file and the management, tells you they're pleased with their budget. But our finances are in good shape. I'm not advocating a tax increase for recycling. I'm advocating that if we get in a situation where we can partner with DEP and or the city of Charleston, we can put something together, then we of course are going to try to have a viable recycling program in this community. Progressive communities have viable recycling programs. That's not an extraordinary concept.
Can I just ask a clarifying here? So earlier when you said that to have a viable recycling program, it might need some sort of dedicated revenue. You meant revenue, but not necessarily new revenue, not a tax increase.
Exactly.
Correct?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, if you're talking about, our budget's $52 million. The fact that we made a decision to help out the Solid Waste Authority by helping them tear down a building and get their workers out of a building that was literally falling down didn't require us to raise taxes. We certainly have the discretion to make those types of decisions without raising taxes. Our budget is in very good shape, as evidenced by the fact that when this flood happened, we had $8 million in a rainy day fund. We were able to spend $2.9 million up front quickly to haul 38 million pounds of debris out of the Elk Valley in 60 days. We didn't wait for FEMA to do that. We had the money in our rainy day fund to do that, and now we're asking FEMA to reimburse us. So we have a very, very well thought out budget.
Yeah. So, Mr. Wheeler, in the questionnaire, you say that Mr. Hardy has not taken his job seriously. Can you elaborate on that or give some specific examples of what you mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that we have the county commission. Dave Hardy goes to his 2 meetings a month. He receives his paycheck, and he's nowhere to be found until election cycle. And that's what I hear from all of the Kanawha County voters in Kanawha County. They tell me that they don't see Dave Hardy. They can't get a hold of him. They can't talk with him about their issues. And they feel like they are not being properly represented by a county commissioner. I believe that I'm a county commissioner that can stand there and say that I will be a man for the people of Kanawha County. I'll listen to your issues, your problems. I'll be there. And I can say it's tough being county commissioner for 15 years. I can understand how that can take a toll on you. And I think that's why it's time that we have someone with some new ideas and a little fresh perspective. Someone a little bit more fresh in here. And that's what I hope to do. We need someone who is a full-time county commissioner. That's where Kanawha County is today. Someone who is a full-time county commissioner who can help at events, go to Marmet, go to Cross Lanes, talk to the voters from Cross Lanes. They have a traffic issue there, and they have been reaching out to the county commission to talk to the Department of Highways and just be a voice. There's no vote, there's no money request, just someone to be a voice, and they don't see it. And St. Albans, my hometown as well, I've been talking to voters, door knocking in there, and they've said the same thing. Where are our county commissioners been in the last 20 years? And that's why I think we need someone who's a full-time commissioner.
So
You mentioned that in your, I'm sorry, Laura, you mentioned that in your questionnaire too. It's time we elect someone willing to take this as a full-time job. Are you suggesting that you would resign your job if you're elected and dedicate yourself full-time?
No, we can work on a full-time basis, whether it's emails, text messages. If a constituent calls me or emails me, I can take that during my lunch break. I can do those type of measures. Not just be a 9-to-5 guy, but be something more than just 2 meetings a month. Going out to the events on a Saturday to talk to voters, holding town halls. I mean, how many town halls have our county commissioners held to talk to people outside of the Charleston area? And And it's difficult for a lot of our full-time parents who have jobs and they have kids to make the trip from Cross Lanes, Sissonville, Allen Creek, Pratt, and drive to a county commission office or meeting to express their disconcern. And they've told me that they'd like to have someone that comes to their area. I've been door knocking, like I said, in 36, and I've had probably a handful, probably more, of people who told me, "You're the first politician that's knocked on my door to talk to me. All I do is get direct mail or a robocall." So you don't have to be a technical 100% full-time commissioner, but more than just what we're seeing today.
I work very hard at this job. If you don't believe me, ask around. I never quit moving around this county. It's a big county. This is a very big county. 900 square miles in this county. There's 14 municipalities, 27 fire departments. I never stopped moving around. I was in St. Albans this morning at the Chamber of Commerce. I was the guest speaker. I talk to the mayors constantly, all of them. And there is no question that it is a big job with a big responsibility. But I would say I am up to the challenge. I have been. And I have not slowed down. If anything, I've sped up because the technology keeps you advised 24/7. I get every email that Metro sends out, I get. This iPhone never stops. I'm constantly paying attention to what's going on. I talk to the county manager, the deputy county manager, day in and day out. But it's an operation that's not designed for the county commissioners to sit in an office and manage every second of every function. It's too complicated. There's $52 million budget. There's 424 people that work for the county. We have, one of the most important things we've done is we have a nonpartisan, professional staff that helps us in the county. And I mean our deputy county manager, Andrew Kanawha, who's a lawyer and has a master's degree in human resource management, and our county manager, Jennifer Sayer, who has a master's degree and has been an outstanding county manager. But do they report to the commissioners? Yes, they do. And we talk to them. I talk to them literally every single day.
Technically, what are the hours, if there are technical hours to be a county commissioner?
What are the hours?
Yeah.
Whatever it takes to get the job done. During the floods, nonstop. On a Wednesday in July, when nothing's going on, it may not be as complicated that day. It depends on what's going on at the time. There have been times where I have worked around the clock on commission business. When we had the situation up at Yeager Airport, very, very trying time for all of us. Anytime there's a county emergency, we are on call 24/7. I'm a first responder. I get alerted, and at times I go to the EOC out of Metro.
What is the pay?
40, it got changed by the legislature. It's 40, I think it's 40,390. And that's approximately what it is. I might also add that I've been a successful lawyer for 30 years. I'm a CPA. I am a college graduate. So I'm very well qualified to do what I do. And I take it very seriously.
Speaking of Yeager Airport, what do you think about taking a piece of Coonskin Park for the runway?
I think if that's going to be done, Rob, and that's going to be on the airport's board's agenda for 4 p.m. Tomorrow, I think the meeting's actually tomorrow. I think it's going to have to be done in a very, very careful and diplomatic way. If the decision is made that you need to go that direction, then the Parks and Rec Commission needs to be part of that process so they can understand what they will get, they being Coonskin Park, if they have to sacrifice part of that area or the runway trailer. You know what I'm talking about?
Light towers.
Yeah, it's an unknown at this point. We're in consultation with the FAA. The FAA is going to have a lot of say on what happens over there. One thing we do know, we don't want to go back to the location that we were before. If that area will be stabilized. There are 28 defendants in that lawsuit. that has been filed on our behalf. There's a tremendous amount of insurance money that we will collect ultimately from what happened up there in March of 2015. But moving forward, the FAA is going to have a lot of say on which way we go and how we do it. And General Tackett, who's the former head of the Guard, who is on the Yeager Airport Board and the Parks and Rec Board, he's on both boards, is going to be the liaison to help us work through that issue.
I'm saying, do you think it's a good idea?
I think it has potential. I haven't reached a conclusion on it yet because I'm going to hear the same briefing tomorrow that everybody else is going to hear. And I'm not, for the record, I'm not trying to dodge the question because they have just now gotten all the plans laid out and are going to be presenting. And then my question is going to be, if we lose part of Coonskin, what can we do for Coonskin? And I'm advocating that we build some additional recreational ball fields and things in Coonskin with some of the flat land that might be created. Schoenbaum has just been an unbelievably successful soccer facility. So we would like to build on that. I might also add the bridge has greatly increased the value of Coonskin Park. Their attendance is up about 20% all the way across the board after that bridge opened.
You want to talk about the airport?
I think, I'm not in the same briefings as Commissioner Hardy is, but I think he's done a good job in these discussions. I will say that. And whatever we have to do to get Yeager back to where it was before, obviously, I think you're right. I think we should not go back in the same direction. I don't think that's a good plan on there. And I know some people that were responders to that, and that was trying times. But whatever we have to do to get Yeager back to running full scale, you can't have an economic development here in Kanawha County and not have a good working airport. And so whatever we can do to build up Yeager Airport and make it stronger than it was before, I absolutely support.
Agree with this. But, my question is, with the LQ Crossing Small Bridge / culvert, 500 jobs are sitting there, but you can't get to them. So how can you bring in more jobs with the ones just sitting there? So could the county have done more in this, or are you satisfied with how it's handled?
Well, I'm not sure if I was satisfied with how it's handled. I mean, we're obviously seeing delays. Now, I'm not a foreman. I'm not there, figuring out exactly what's going on. There might be some issues that they're trying to fix. That's the reason why it happened in the first place, even though there's 1,000-year flood that occurred. But, I'm obviously not satisfied. Something is not working properly. And if I was county commissioner, I would be there on day one, making sure that this is something that we're looking at getting fixed as soon as possible. Because you're absolutely right. They're not only the jobs. Let's ignore the jobs for a second. Let's talk about just the economy of, it's not necessarily county, but the economy of the taxes that come through there in that area too. I mean, this is a very beneficial area for for those citizens, and they don't have a place to go eat, to shop. It's still closed, and it doesn't look like it's getting reopened anytime soon. So, if I was county commissioner, I would be working right now, today, finding out why it hasn't been completed, why it hasn't been started, and what we have to do to get it to that point.
I'll respond. And Lance, I agree with a lot of what you said there. We have, from the get-go, we had communications with the developer in Florida. He was quick to point out that it's a private bridge and not the responsibility of the Department of Highways. We frankly would rather have been the responsibility of the Department of Highways. He made representations to everyone, and I mean everyone, including the governor's office, that he would prefabricate a new bridge and have it put in there. At the beginning, it looked very promising. Its bridge is on private property. And about early August, after 5-6 weeks went by, we all began to realize that number one, he quit talking to everybody, and number two, nothing was happening. We then had our legal counsel, our county attorneys, take a look at what our options were. Frankly, it's a private bridge. Our options aren't very good. We communicated with the tenants out there. Many of them have just quit paying rent and are going to be suing him as well. And we're very interested in being part of that litigation if we need to be. We want to be. Bottom line, he's disappeared and nothing's happening, and we're not happy about it. We then tried a different angle by having our emergency services people, that being C.W. Sigmund, file a complaint with the idea that you had emergency response issues out there. Obviously you do. And it's a very frustrating situation. And we're not happy with the status quo. Neither is the governor. Nobody's happy with it. But to date, we have not been able to get any lawyer that we have consulted with to say we can bring the lawsuit, because it's a private bridge, and he's in a lot of disputes out there with his insurance company, and he's of course saying I got insurance coverage is an issue as well. So you're right, it needs to be corrected.
I'm gonna wrap up with one more question, just ask, because we want to keep it about an hour, so ask, make it brief. It's a hypothetical question, but if legislature or create a task force and talk about realignment or talk about realignment of counties and so on, the big question around is West Virginia really 55 counties that were originally understood to be so that anybody could leave here from their house and horseback to county seat and back. If a viable plan that was created that would change the state into 12 to 15 regions or so, could you see that having any light of day at the county level, or could you support such a thing?
Kelly, I'm always interested in doing a better job, always. And you're right, I learned when I took the Golden Horseshoe test in 1972 that the reason we had 55 county seats is because you had to be able to ride to the county courthouse and back on a horse in one day. I have no idea if that's true, but that's what I learned in 1972 at East Bank Junior High. Yes, and answer your question, if there would be a proposal that could make us more streamlined and better and still be able to maintain the services and do it in a more efficient way, I'd be interested in looking at it. Answer your question. Of course, the devil's always in the details too. The most complicated part would be tax base and the school boards. Most people don't know this. When you pay your property tax dollar, 72 cents of it is going to the capital for public education. So our part is about 19 cents. Then our public safety levy is about 8 cents. So the big issue there is going to be tax base.
Yeah, absolutely. That's obviously the state legislature's decision, and I have great relationships with not only the majority party but also the minority party, and I look forward to, as county commissioners, talking with them if they decide to go down that route of working with them that shows what's best for Kanawha County and the citizens. Dave's right. That's a difficult situation. You start looking into that, you're looking at a mess of problems, and I don't want to get Kanawha County into any type of idea that we're here to help bail out any other counties or anything like that. So we need to make sure that if it is considered and they're trying to put that on the table, that the county commission is there on day one, making sure that it's what's best for Kanawha County, not what's best for a political press release from delegates and senators. So I do agree that it might be something that can be looked down in the future, but today let's worry about Kanawha County and the citizens we have now.
Thank you both for attending.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.